With the 3DS eShop shutting down in March and taking microtransactions with it, I thought now was the perfect time to check out every single free-to-play game. Then again, I also thought nobody in their right mind would want to see a top-down sequel in 2022. There's a total of 9 true free-to-play games on 3DS eShop. While there's plenty of great free demos on 3DS, I'm only taking a look at the games listed under the free-to-start category on the eShop, and a third of them are Pokemon games because why not? Now, I know what you're thinking. If sex is a race, I always come first. And you're right, these games aren't technically free to play, they're free to start, a distinction Nintendo specifically makes, meaning that you should probably go into these expecting to spend some money after a certain point. And for some of them, I did. For science, of course. Not because of some deep-seated psychosis where I only experience joy from spending money. Definitely not that. First up, Ironfall Invasion is literally just Gears of War shrunk down to play on a 3DS. Except instead of cool monsters you slice in half with a chainsaw, you fight robot aliens with terrible aim and no sense of self-preservation. As you'll see a few times in this video, Ironfall is a demo with in-game purchases rather than a traditional free-to-play game. They give you the first campaign mission for free, then it's $12 if you want the full thing. Personally, I had no interest in spending any money. The first mission is about 15 minutes long. Being a cover shooter, you can take cover and shoot enemies. It's not really necessary because of the bad AI, still it's there. Otherwise, you just walk into a room, kill all the enemies, and proceed. Problem is, you have to kill all the enemies, but there's usually one hiding randomly in a corner somewhere playing with itself. And the controls, as you can imagine, aren't perfect. While the game does support a Circle Pad Pro, my 3DS with a capture card installed does not. So it was touchscreen aiming only for me. It's not horrible, it works about as well as you'd expect, though adjusting the sensitivity is an absolute must. Overall, the demo mission is decent. Not so bad that I wanted to stop, but not good enough to make me want to buy the whole thing. At the very least, it's worth downloading just to try it out, plus it has more voice acting than Pokemon on Switch. If you want the full multiplayer experience, that's another $12, bringing the full game to a whopping $24 in Canada. I was actually able to find a match with the free version, though it was a 1v1 against probably the only other person playing Ironfall. I did end up winning, and if you can get a full lobby, this is actually kind of fun. The grenade launcher is far too OP though. My recommendation with Ironfall is to download it, play for about 15 to 20 minutes to experience Gears of War on 3DS, and then not spend any money. First off, Nintendo Badge Arcade requires an internet connection, then you have to wait 5 minutes for an update to download and install. And each subsequent day you have to wait about 2 minutes for the inventory to refresh. After all that, you can finally start playing. Well, actually, you have to listen to a bunny guilt you into spending money first, but then you can play. At its core, Nintendo Badge Arcade is a crane game. You send a crane down, try to collect badges, and that's it. The bonus here is that you can use the badges to decorate your 3DS home screen. The problem is that it's microtransaction heavy if you're impatient. To unlock a free theme, you have to buy 10 plays. Plays are available 5 at a time for $1.50, so you have to spend $3 to get the free theme. Obviously, most 3DS themes cost money already, so maybe it's not so egregious, but if you aren't terribly interested in badges or themes, it's just too much money. There is some good news. You get 5 free plays just for starting. Then you get 2 free plays each day, plus you can earn free plays by doing well in practice mode. So you can spend $0 and simply rack up free badges by playing regularly, but you'll have to log in every day and that 2-minute loading screen gets real old real fast. Realistically, it's a stretch to call Nintendo Badge Arcade an actual video game. It's a badge marketplace dressed up to look like a video game. You should still absolutely download it because you can get those free daily badges, just don't spend any money on it. For science though, I did end up spending $3. On 3 of my first 5 plays, I got absolutely nothing. That was fun. But I guess that's the draw of these types of games. You can literally spend thousands of dollars and have nothing to show for it. Thanks to Zelda Pcross, I finally begun to enjoy the game of Pcross. That's why I started playing Pokemon Pcross first out of all the games in this video. If you're new to Pcross, Professor Tetra gives you a quick 5-puzzle tutorial explaining the ins and outs. After clearing it, you'll have 150 Picross, the in-game currency, and 2 Pokemon, Squirtle and Eevee. While Pokemon Pcross is Pcross at its core, they do add the ability to have Pokemon in your party, each with their own effect. It's usually things like revealing a certain number of squares, or in the case of Oddish, auto-fixing a mistake. Some of the powers do have a recharge time, so swapping out party members is essential. Otherwise, it's pretty much a copy and paste of the Zelda Pcross game, except with a Pokemon flair. As for the pick rights and microtransactions in Pokemon Pcross, they aren't bad at first. By the time the energy gauge is revealed, you'll have over 200 pick rights, and by completing missions and earning medals, you'll unlock more, though it's usually never more than 3 to 5 each. With the energy gauge, it constantly goes down as you make moves. It refills automatically when the timer reaches 0, but that could take an hour. You can spend 10 pick right to reset it, giving yourself more playtime, or you can spend 100 pick right to extend the life of the energy gauge. That would be a great idea, except you have to spend 50 pick right to open the first new area, then 60, then 70, then 80, and so on and so forth. From each puzzle, you'll earn about 6 pick right for completing all the missions, as well as a few more for clearing Professor Tetra's daily challenge. If you only play 1 or 2 puzzles per day, you can avoid worrying about the energy gauge and just save your pick right for new areas. But if you want to play for several hours at once, you'll absolutely have to spend some real world money, an option you won't even have after March 2023. Personally, I don't recommend doing that because your money won't go very far. I reached a point around Area 5 of 30 where I no longer had enough pick rights to progress. I did overspend on my energy gauge early, but even if I hadn't, it would have only bought me one more area before the same thing happened. So while Pokemon Pcross starts off okay, you really have to use your daily challenges wisely to be a free-to-player. Even then, it'll take up to a week to open one new area. Basically, you have to spend money here. If that doesn't appeal to you, Pokemon Pcross offers a good starting point for the Pcross universe. The early puzzles offer an okay challenge, but if you're looking for a truly free Pcross experience, grab Zelda Pcross from My Nintendo before it's gone. I'll admit I was a fan of Pokemon Rumble when it first released on WiiWare. It was just simple button mashing fun that gave me a few hours of joy. Then they milked the franchise without improving on it and I lost interest. And as you'd expect, Pokemon Rumble World hasn't really changed anything from the core formula. If you've already experienced the franchise elsewhere, this is the exact same thing. To put it mildly, the gameplay is absurdly simple. You walk into a small area, spam the A button until all the weak Pokemon are destroyed, rinse, and repeat. There's almost no strategy or skill involved in the regular areas, especially when the game will just give you ultra powerful Pokemon for free. I got a Fearow that swept a few areas, then a Florges that was nearly twice as powerful. Still, I did find myself wanting to play the game, it just wore thin after about an hour of doing the same thing over and over. As for the microtransactions, use Pokédiamonds to buy hot air balloons which take you to different areas. But if you use a hot air balloon once, it deflates and you have to wait for it to reinflate or spend Pokédiamonds to speed up the process. At the beginning, it's only a few seconds to recharge, but then it takes an hour or two. To help with that, you earn Pokédiamonds from doing a daily challenge for the king and meeting certain requirements. Those daily challenges help keep things as fresh as they can get, introducing Battle Royale and Escort missions, as well as hard mode. Here, you do have to be careful and dodge attacks while also switching regularly. The gameplay is still basic like every Becky, but at least it adds a challenge. Ultimately though, I was bored of Rumble World very quickly. It's not only the fact that you hit a paywall roadblock after a few days, the gameplay just isn't that in-depth. I was able to redeem some passwords from Cerebi to boost my account with Pokédiamonds and a couple of absurdly powerful Pokemon, but the stages never change. The daily mission tries to switch things up, but I got real sick of Pokemon Rumble real quick. It's fine for those first few days, but now I never want to play it again. As you can tell from the gameplay, Pokemon Shuffle is your typical match 3 game. The differences here are that it's easy as hell at the beginning, you can slide a piece anywhere, and the Pokemon in your party do matter. By defeating a Pokemon, you have a chance to catch it. In the next battle, you can use that Pokemon's special ability that might do something like increase the damage you deal. Additionally, by matching up Pokemon with a type advantage over the Pokemon you're facing, you deal bonus damage. But at the end of the day, this is a match 3 game. If the genre doesn't appeal to you, there's not much to change your mind other than the Pokemon aesthetic, no matter how much they try to dress it up with things like Mega Evolution and enemy moves. If you're interested in the match 3 genre, this is a very digestible and fun place to start. It's super easy to get into, the gameplay is simple, and you get to play with Pokemon the entire time. In terms of microtransactions, you'll likely never get to a point where they're 100% necessary. The timer is fair, you get daily check-in bonuses, and I was able to play for 2 hours in my first day with only spending a single jewel, and the game gives you 4 jewels for free. Plus, there's special battles and mission cards, and it's all a little overwhelming to be honest, but it all adds up to more content, and Pokemon Shuffle ends up being overly generous when it comes to giving you free stuff. Overall, Pokemon Shuffle is the most generous free-to-play game on 3DS. While the gameplay is a bit thin, even if you get sick of it after one day, you can proceed quite deep into it without spending any real money. Regularly mentioned in 3DS eShop Best Of lists, Rusty's Real Deal Baseball sees you buying games from an old dog who's kinda pathetic. Rusty used to be a famous baseball player, but now he runs an unsuccessful sports shop and his wife left him or something. So you can take advantage of the sad sack and bring the price of $4 games down to $2. It starts out with Rusty giving you one of his kids, plus a demo to bat and switch for Nintendo 4DS. It's a basic pitch and hit game, nothing too special. By doing well in the demo, you earn items like donuts and a nose hair trimmer, which can be used to haggle with Rusty. Unfortunately, Rusty's Real Deal Baseball can't really be played for free. You have to spend money on the games within the game to progress the story, otherwise there's not much to do. So in terms of a free game, it's horrible. In terms of an enjoyable paid game, well, I'd say it's worth spending $2 and seeing what you think. I spent my first $2 on Cage Match after getting the price down 50%. You can't get it lower than $2, but I'd say it was worth the money. Cage Match has 5 different game modes complete with 5 difficulties. By beating each section, you unlock new items to haggle with and arcade modes. As for the minigame itself, you bat against fastballs and curves, before being asked to work a walk and even hitting through smoke. If this was its own game on the eShop, I'd probably recommend it, and it would be one of the best $2 games available. I also spent $1.90 on Bat and Switch, the full version. Realistically, it's the same as Cage Match. You time up a pitch and try to hit it in the sweet spot. It offers enough variation in the pitches thrown, but if you play one, I'm not sure you need the other. Unless you really like wrecking your 3DS's A button, then it's worth it. I decided to stop at these 2 games. Apparently a lot of the others do mix up the gameplay a decent amount, but I'm trying to spend as little money as possible. Rusty already took 4 of my dollars, I ain't giving him more. Overall, Rusty's Real Deal Baseball is definitely worth downloading, but you have to go in expecting to spend at least $2. According to a few comments I saw, Make the Call or Batmaster are probably the next best ones to buy. Just make a decision quick. Once the eShop closes in March, you won't be able to buy the minigames. There's a reason why Steel Diver hasn't become Nintendo's next biggest franchise. It's just not all that exciting. While I've yet to play the original Steel Diver, Subwars is a sub-combat game. I tried it out for a few minutes at the beginning of the year, but now that I invested some time into it, I'm not exactly racing to play the original. For starters, your sub moves so slow. Yeah, shooting torpedoes is fine and all, but the very first level is just about navigating rings. The occasional enemy or obstacle does pop up, it's just not enough. You move at a snail's pace, turning requires you to slow down, and with the camera angle you never feel like a sub. Even with these negatives, it still works. I'm not saying Subwars is bad, I'm just saying the franchise doesn't have the it factor. Yet again, Subwars is more like a demo than a full free-to-play game. It offers a bit more initial content than Ironfall though. You get the first 2 missions free and each of them have 3 levels of difficulty. On top of that, you can access multiplayer for free. Believe it or not, people are still playing Subwars. I only had 2 real opponents in the first game, but the second one had 5 players including me. Unfortunately, it appears Subwars is pay to win. Because you can just buy better subs, a person who buys a sub is going to have an advantage over someone who doesn't. Luckily, you only need to spend $1.40 to get one. And because this is more of a demo than a game, you'll have to spend $14 Canadian to unlock the whole experience. Yeah, that's not worth it. I would recommend downloading the demo if you've ever been interested in the series though. Worst case scenario, you hate it and delete it 10 minutes later. Let's get one thing out of the way first. Stretchmo is not a free game. It's a free-to-play game disguised as a full-price game. When you boot it up, the tutorial of 7 levels is available to you. It's stupidly easy and over in a few minutes. Then Nintendo tells you it costs $20 to buy the 4 level packs separately, but it's a much better deal to get them all at once for $14. And you don't even get access to Stretchmo Studio until you buy at least 1 level pack. The studio allows you to make your own Stretchmo and access other people's Stretchmo, meaning basically every part of the game is locked behind a paywall. So, while all the reviews say Stretchmo is a great continuation of the franchise following Pushmo and Crashmo, it's not a free-to-play game and therefore I have to say it's bad. Do you wish there was a Kirby game that cut out all the boring platforming and just went straight for boss battles? That's exactly what Team Kirby Clash Deluxe is. You take a team of up to 4, choose between a few different roles, and go into battle against a boss. Each role has its own pros and cons, but the ultimate goal is to just beat up on bosses until they're gone. At times, it feels less like a Kirby game and more of a co-op Smash Bros set in the Kirby universe. That's not necessarily a bad thing though. What is bad is the small arena. What you see is what you get. While the bosses are all fairly unique, it gets super hectic with 4 characters on screen all doing their own thing. And while it may seem like Kirby is the perfect online game, there's no online play whatsoever, just local. So unless you know people with a 3DS in 2022, you're solely relying on the CPU. And the computer has a knack for ignoring you when it comes time to get revived. Of course there's microtransactions, but they aren't egregious. You have an energy bar and each quest you attempt drains it. By leveling up, the energy bar recharges. At first, Kirby seems like it's never going to require you to spend money. They hand out gem apples like candy, plus you get free gem apples every 12 hours. But very quickly, the enemies get harder, requiring you to spend the apples to acquire more powerful weapons and armor. It also costs apples to unlock new enemies to fight. And your energy bar depletes super quickly, meaning you'll have to spend apples to recharge it. If you use your apples wisely though, and don't play more than 2 or 3 missions each day, you can probably go 2 or 3 weeks without spending any money. But if you want a marathon play session, you're going to have to cough up some coin. Overall, I probably had the most fun with Team Kirby. The microtransactions are fair early on, the economy is decent, and the gameplay, while hectic and not always the best way, still provides a good amount of fun. Alright, let's get the bad out of the way first. Stretch Mode is easily the worst free to start game on 3DS, it's just a demo with DLC packs. That's not to say the game itself is bad, it's to say in this context it's not actually free to play and therefore sucks. Steel Diver and Ironfall Invasion are somewhat similar to Stretch Mode. They do feel like demos, but the free content you get far outweighs anything in Stretch Mode, and you even get to try the multiplayer modes for free. While Steel Diver and Ironfall are worth downloading just to see what they offer, Stretch Mode is probably the only one you actually want to spend money on. But then again, Stretch Mode is part of a larger series, so there's 2 other games to choose from if you'd rather go that way. I think Rusty's Real Deal Baseball is sort of halfway between free to play and a demo with microtransactions. Rusty just happens to give you plenty of options and the games don't cost more than $2 each if you haggle enough. So for that, it's in that middle ground. Now let's get to the true free to play games. I think Pokemon Pcross is the worst offender here in terms of taking your money because it basically forces you to spend money to unlock new areas. Pokemon Shuffle is easily the most free to play friendly game on 3DS, while Pokemon Rumble and Team Kirby Clash can last you several days before you hit the paywall roadblock. I still have a bunch more 3DS eShop videos coming down the pipeline before the eShop closes in March, so make sure you hit that subscribe button so you're aware of when they go live.